Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today in Prague at the VHU, the Military History Institute in Prague. They have both a fantastic small arms reference collection and also a really cool military history museum. We're taking a look at some exotic prototype Czech firearms. Specifically today, we have a 9x19mm, 9mm Parabellum locked breech experimental version of the vz.38 pistol. Now, to give you a little bit of backstory on the vz.38, this was developed by a Czech designer named František Miška, working at the CZ factory in Strakonice. And this was competed and won adoption as the new Czech Army pistol in 1938. It was chambered, for the Czechs, it was chambered in 9x17 or 9mm Browning short, aka 380 ACP. It replaced their previous 32 automatic pistols. It's a kind of a weird, odd duck of a gun. Kind of awkward looking, kind of awkward handling, weird disassembly, which you'll see in a moment. Double action only and simple blowback in 380. Now, once that pistol was fully developed and adopted by the Czechs, the CZ plant continued to work on its development. Miška went back to working on new versions of it because they also wanted to sell this as an export product and make some money. And so they did a couple things. Well, first off, the Romanian government showed an interest in the pistol in 9mm Parabellum. Up to this point, it had only been 32 and 380 that they were working on, but those had worked well, so they figured, what the heck, we'll try it in 9 Parabellum. And so in 1938, they built probably, I think, one experimental model, simple blowback in 9x19. And it didn't work well because, well, 9x19 is generally too potent for a simple blowback pistol. You need a really heavy slide to make it work. This design didn't have it. So there is an interruption in the project when the Germans occupy Czechoslovakia in 1939, but Romania is an acceptable place for a German puppet state to be selling firearms, and so work actually resumes in the fall of 1939. Miška goes back to it, and they end up designing a rotating barrel locking system to sort of adapt into the vz.38 pistol, and they make two examples of it. One of them is destroyed in testing, and the second one is this guy right here. So let's take a look at what exactly they did to this pistol. Sorry for the interruption. Just want to say that today's video is brought to you by Headstamp Publishing, with an extensive catalog of books on all sorts of interesting and esoteric small arms, everything from World War II small arms to Imperial Japanese swords to the earliest of revolvers and Cold War battle rifles. There is something at Headstamp for every firearms enthusiast. Check it out. Links in the description text below. The basic frame setup is exactly the same as the regular 380 caliber pistols. One of the kind of awkward things about the vz.38 is this very long grip that is really much longer than the cartridge and the magazine require. So it was simple enough to retrofit 9x19 in there. So there's our magazine. This has a 9-round capacity, which is the same as the regular 380 gun. If we take a look on the left side here, we have slide markings. This is all the company name. It's Česká Žebrovka, which is essentially Czechoslovakian small arms manufacturer. AKC is like incorporated. And at this point, the official company name was CZ in Prague, although their actual manufacturing facility was in Strakonice. Serial number here is 300,001, marked on the slide and the frame. This was a new serial series that they started for the 9mm guns with the 300,000 prefix. They only made 2 of these, like I said, number 1 and number 2. Now, the other element that distinguishes this from a regular Czech military CZ-38 or VZ-38 is the presence of this safety lever, because where the military guns are double action only, these can actually be fired in single action. So you can manually cock the pistol and then engage the safety, which locks the trigger. And then we can lower the trigger there. It will function in double action if you want it to. And, well, you have the option to carry it cocked and locked. And after you fire the first round, the slide will manually recock the hammer. So just like any other DASA gun, other than your first shot, all the subsequent ones are single action. The only way you can really identify this from the outside, the only mechanical difference visible, is this hump in the front of the slide. And that is where they made it thicker so that it could accommodate a locking recess. So to disassemble this, it is exactly like a regular 38. We just push the disassembly lever forward, lift up on the top of the slide. This, by the way, is why the gun is colloquially called the Nutcracker, because it looks like you just put a walnut or something in there and snap it down. Disassembly again like normal, except now we have the barrel that sort of stays in the front here because that is where they put the rotating cams. So in order to make this a rotating barrel, in the original, the standard Army pistols, this is just a fixed barrel and the slide is delayed just by its own mass and it goes back and forth. To make it locked breech, they had to add locking lugs and rotating lugs, something to force the barrel to actually rotate to lock and unlock. So they added a pair of helical cam grooves in this front barrel retainer and that locking lug. Now that's cut a full 180 degrees from one side all the way over to the other. And it looks like it's a locking recess in the top. It's actually acting as a locking recess on the sides at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So these here and here are our locking lugs. And they are going to lock the barrel in place like this when the barrel rotates. When it unlocks, it comes there, and then the slide can back off and extract the empty cartridge. So to reassemble this, we just drop the barrel back in there. Slide goes on top. You can see that this peg, which is connected to the recoil spring, drops into this hole. So that's what forces the slide, puts the slide under spring pressure. Pull the latch, close the gun, and now when I cycle the slide back, you can see the barrel rotate. It doesn't rotate very much, it's just right there it is, and it's a very shiny barrel, so it's a little difficult to see. But it doesn't take much rotation for this to work as a locking system. Interestingly, there is almost no initial dwell time. So normally with a locked breech pistol, a recoil-operated gun like this is, you would expect the slide to move with the barrel for a short distance before it actually starts to extract the cartridge. On this one, it's rotating immediately upon the slide starting to move. So I suppose you've got a little bit of time right there where the barrel's rotating, but it hasn't actually started to extract the case yet, but not a lot of dwell time on this system. And maybe that had something to do with why it didn't go any further in development. Ultimately, there was interest with the Romanian government in these pistols, but the project never actually went beyond these two initial prototypes. They did firing trials, and one can, I think, fairly reasonably assume that the trials didn't go all that well because it didn't progress any farther. There's not very much information about the project at that point. I mean, this was a very chaotic period in Czechoslovakia. A lot of the records are missing, damaged, destroyed, etc. What we do know is they took essentially the same design in 380 and sold them to the Bulgarian government, for the Bulgarian police. What's interesting about that is the Bulgarian pistols, they made about 1,600 of them in, I believe, 1940 or 41. Those have the same single action or double action fire control system as this, including the manual safety, but they are simple blowback 380 caliber guns. So they took one of the improvements and left off the other. Well, was problematic rather than an improvement. So if you see a CZ38 in the wild with a safety like this, the chances are basically 100% that it's one of these Bulgarian contract guns. But the factory did in fact build a functional experimental version in 9x19. It just didn't go anywhere further. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'd like to give a big thanks to the VHU for giving me access to this literally one-of-a-kind pistol to film for you. If you happen to be in Prague and you would like a really great way to spend probably an entire day, you should definitely check out the Czech Army Museum. It's part of the VHU here, has extensive displays of World War I, World War II, and more modern small arms, including a whole bunch of prototypes on display, which is really cool. Thanks for watching.